That one's drilled deep to right field.
Hurts going deep for it all. Devontae Smith.
He has been fantastic in this fourth.
Wow.
A break in on goal, and he scores.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Two Mics All Sports. I'm your host, Zachary Chaby, joined again by my special guest, Santino. What's going on, man?
I'm back. I'm the trendsetter. You know, everyone wants to hop on this pod, but I was the first one, and once again, I'm honored to be back, and I really appreciate you for bringing me back.
Yeah, no problem, anytime. So, obviously, he was on for the wild card reactions. I thought we would run it back for the divisional round. But before we get into the divisional round, something happened the day after we recorded the video, and as you know, and if you don't, Santino is a massive Giants fan, diehard. Santino, how are you feeling that John Harbaugh is now in the building as the head coach of the New York Football Giants?
There's a lot I could say. The big thing with me is we needed a change. We have been one of the worst teams the last few years, besides that one playoff run where we won against the Vikings, which wasn't even that good of a playoff run. We got smacked by the Eagles. The fact that we can bring in a coach like Harbaugh is a double-edged sword in multiple ways, but it's more good than bad. Harbaugh is going to hopefully get us some more wins, but at the same time, you know what you're getting with Harbaugh. It's kind of like Mike Tomlin, where you're going to make the play. Like in a year or two, we're going to be one of those teams where we're going to make the playoffs almost every year as long as we can stay healthy. But the thing that I'm concerned about is Harbaugh the type of guy that's going to get us a championship ring? And we obviously saw he didn't get one with Lamar. He had Lamar Jackson, and he had teams that were like top 10 like rosters in the NFL, top even 7, and he couldn't win a ring with them. But I don't think it's ridiculous to say. I think where he's at now is the best possible spot he could be in if he's trying to start with a young team and making them better. He has Jackson Dart, who should have been Offensive Rookie of the Year, but he's not going to win it because he got snubbed. They have Abdul Carter, who's young. They have Cam Scadaboo, the PED-free, the crayon-eating, head-butting, best running back in the NFL. Most fun, I'll say. I'm not going to say best yet. They have Malik Neighbors. They have a roster. It's just, what is he going to do with this team? I'm really happy to have a new face. I love the ball. I will still stand on it that the ball was a great coordinator. He shouldn't have been a head coach. If he goes to the Eagles and becomes an offensive coordinator, I'm going to be upset because I think they are Super Bowl bound if they get the ball as their offensive coordinator, because it's like Patullo and then the ball's up here that make a great difference. But back to Harbaugh, I'm honestly just so happy. Honestly, I couldn't be happier right now. Everyone's going to be back next season if everyone's healthy. We saw what the Giants were this year. They weren't a great team. They were a 4-win team. But if you really look back at it, obviously there's 4 quarters of a football game, and stuff happens in football, as we're going to get to later. If a few plays go our way, we are a playoff team this year. With all the injuries we had, with how bad the defensive line was and defense in general was this year, with the fact that Scadaboo goes down, Neighbors goes down, everyone went down. We had Wanda Robinson looking like a top 10 receiver in the NFL with Dart. There's just so much to be happy about right now, and I haven't been able to say that as a Giants fan in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, because I think this is the one instance where a losing season obviously is bad, but it's also good in a sense because you were competitive in a lot of the games you played this year. And I just think I go back to the point where, like, I think Harbaugh is the Doc Rivers of the NFL. I think that Super Bowl is keeping him prominent in today's NFL, but he's also a good head coach. I think immediately when I saw Harbaugh got fired, I put him in the Giants' immediate connection not because of Dart. I think this defense, if he can get back to his old ways, is going to be one of the most disciplined groups in the NFL and one of the most improved groups in the NFL. It should be interesting to see what they do at offensive coordinator. The rumors has been Todd Monken, but I know you mentioned to me that you would rather bring in guys that he hasn't worked with before just so they can have all that creativity in the room, and I think that would be a great idea. But I think the only downfall or the only downside to this team right now is the GM. I think Joe Schoen is the only guy that can mess things up right now at this point. He's still in the building. He's obviously had terrible decisions. But the way this outlook is looking for the Giants right now, you have your franchise quarterback as long as he can stay healthy in Jackson Dart. I think that's pretty because his run pass ability off the charts already. Cam Scadaboo, one of the most craziest guys I've ever seen in my life. He's a great running back. Neighbors coming back healthy. If you lose Wandale Robinson, you can draft a Cardell Tate 5th overall. You can draft a Jordan Tyson. Or if you keep him, you can draft a Caleb Downs. Like, this Giants team, they have a future. And I know for you, that hasn't been a word that's been able to be thrown around in the past few years. So.
You see me. I would come in every day with my Eli Manning jersey on, and there was only 2 times where I wore that jersey with pride and happiness against the Chargers and against the Eagles. And when you look at it, I think I told you this, or I told a few people, I think it's a situation where with Harbaugh now and everything that's going on, we're either going to finish with like 4 or 5 wins and be dead last in the division, or we're going to go like 11, 12 wins, kind of like how the Jags exceeded all expectations, and we'll be like either first or second in the division. Obviously, it depends what the Eagles do with Patullo, or not Patullo, with their offensive coordinator. I do think if Harbaugh and the Giants can actually mesh well together, Dart continues to develop and doesn't have a sophomore slump, everyone stays healthy, there's no reason why this Giants team should not be second in the division and potentially being a wild card spot, with especially how well the offense played this year, even with all the injuries they had. And if we, with that big thing, if we get Cardell Tate, that's a Wandale Robinson replacement there. I love Wandale for everything he's done for this team, but if he has to walk, he has to go because he's going to want a massive contract. We don't have that money. Because we're going to have to pay Neighbors soon. We're going to have to pay Scadaboo eventually, Dart eventually, Abdul Carter eventually, and probably a bunch of other pieces. We have to keep Brian Burns because he's the defensive player of the year this year if it wasn't for Myles Garrett. We have to do all those things in order to keep the team how it was because the culture's back. That was the big thing going into the season was that our culture sucked. Jameis Winston, Cam Scadaboo, Jackson Dart, Brian Burns, all those players brought the culture back to New York and actually give some life in this Giants team.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think there's obviously downsides to John Harbaugh, but that immediate culture reset is going to be huge for this team and this organization. A coach that has experience, and no disrespect to Brian Dable, but like you said, I think he's a Josh McDaniels. He's just better as an offensive coordinator, and that's what it's going to be at the end of the day. John Harbaugh has been a head coach. Yes, his track record can show that he's not trying to get in the playoffs, but I know for you, in a sense, you would take a 7-10 and 8-9 season next season. I think that would be a massive improvement. I think why Giants fans and you, like, you're so excited that you could see improvement in the horizon. You're not expecting an immediate playoff appearance and a playoff push like that. Like, if you could get 7 to 8 wins, maybe finish second in the division, you can build off that, go into free agency in the draft, and then continue to go forward. The thing, like I keep saying, the future is bright again in New York for the Giants. Definitely not the Jets, that's for sure. So, but after that, we're going to get now into our divisional round reaction. So we're going to go from Saturday's games to Sunday's games. So first question I have for you, Santino, is did the Bills get screwed, and is their Super Bowl window officially closed? Obviously, the Bills advanced after beating the Jaguars, lost this game to the Broncos in a controversial way, and then proceed to fire Sean McDermott. And as of right now, they've interviewed Brian Dable for the head coaching job. If he doesn't go there, he will go to Tennessee as the offensive coordinator. That's what the rumors are right now. They have Joe Brady in the building. They're interviewing these guys. But like I said, did they get screwed, and is their Super Bowl window officially closed?
Despite what I just said about 2 minutes ago about how the Giants, if a few things go their way, they're a playoff team, they did not get screwed. Yes, that interception was absolute BS, but when you're Josh Allen and you're supposed to be the best player in the NFL, the best quarterback in the NFL, you cannot make the mistakes like you did that game. Josh Allen, the big thing was, he can't win when he has Lamar in the playoffs, when he has Burrow in the playoffs, when he has Mahomes in the playoffs. He had everything gone. This was the year, if there was going to be a year where they win the Super Bowl, and they didn't win the Super Bowl. They choked against the Broncos. The only thing they got out of the game was making it to where the Patriots now have a clear path to the Super Bowl because they had to make a backup quarterback in the Broncos. They did I have a lot kind of a New York team, but Josh Allen proved that he is a playoff choker and he's never going to win a Super Bowl. He will never win a Super Bowl unless he goes as a backup quarterback to like a team that's 16-0 and they win the Super Bowl as him not even playing in the game. He is not clutch. He's good in the regular season. Every year, he's an MVP caliber player. In the playoffs, he chokes when it matters the most. If you can't win the playoffs, you aren't a good player. Everyone talks about, just for example, Eli Manning. Oh, he hasn't had the greatest stats. He wasn't that good. Never won like certain awards. When did he win games? He won games in the playoffs and brought 2 Super Bowls home to the Giants. That's when it matters the most.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I think the biggest thing with the Josh Allen argument, I believe it can go hand in hand. You can throw out arguments that they're the reason Josh Allen lost, but then you can also throw out the argument to say that Josh Allen isn't the reason the Bills lost. I think we've seen perfect example about it in the playoffs. I think the one exception he gets is in 2021, that Bills-Chiefs game that went to overtime, because that defense was terrible in the fourth quarter and Josh Allen played like Superman. But then also, he underperformed the following year against Cincinnati at home. They get these easy matchups, except for maybe this year in Jacksonville in the first round, and then they get to the second round AFC Championship game, and they just proceed to choke. And like you said, Josh Allen, I had him a little bit over Lamar. Him and Josh Allen and Lamar are in the same category when it comes to playoff chokers. They are basically the same quarterback. Josh Allen, I think, is a little bit better than Lamar, but when you think of playoff chokers, those two are the definition. They are the exact same quarterback. It's that plain and simple. Yes, that was a terrible call. I think that's just because then Devontae Adams had a similar play the next night, and they call it a different way. But at the same time, the counter argument could be they should have won that game way before then. Denver was not playing their best. Like, Denver had spurts of things, but Josh Allen and the Bills had 5 turnovers, and I know not all of them are Josh Allen, but you can't expect to win a game by turning the ball over 5 times. Yes, you're the quarterback. Yes, you can't control everything. But you also can, in a sense, where it's like, you know the reads, you know the plays that work. Execute what works. They barely used James Cook in that game, I think. I think James Cook was they got away from what was working. And obviously that's an amazing credit to the Broncos defense. But at the same time, it's the Bills, they are heavily on their rushing attack. And if I learned anything last year from the Eagles, if you have a good rushing attack, it can lead you all the way to the Super Bowl. You don't have to have a good passing game. It almost feels like, this is how I feel about Josh Allen. He feels like he needs to play Superman sometimes when he really doesn't. Do what works and let it work, and it's going to work. This Denver team, we talked about it last week. They're not that good of a team. Their offense might be the most mid offense I've ever seen in my life. Like, it is completely mid. They have no run game. Cortland Sutton is an okay receiver. They have other guys, but they're the definition of a mid offense with the production they put up. It's that plain and simple. And you let them go toe to toe with you, and it's the Bills. I know they were obviously down, and then they came back to take the lead. But there's a point where Josh Allen needs to know that we need to chew clock, we need to control what we can control, and we need to get out of here with a win. Because I honestly thought, I said this in my predictions video that I did, whoever won the Bills-Jaguars game should immediately be able to go to the AFC Championship game. I thought, at least. Like, whoever faced the Broncos, like, I had the Texans in my predictions. I had the Texans moving on. Like, I knew whoever was going to face the Broncos, that's an easy second-round matchup to move on. But then they kept the game close with Denver, and Denver's defense was able to prevail. It's that plain and simple. So, but moving on to the Denver side of things now, how have the Broncos survived this long, and do they stand a chance in the AFC Championship game?
I have said a lot of things about this Broncos in the past. But when I said I'm putting everything aside and rooting for the Jared Stidham game of a lifetime, that's what I'm hoping for. They absolutely have a chance. I'm hoping we get to it later. This Patriots team is the most fraudulent team in NFL history. They might have had they could have put me at quarterback, and they would have made the playoffs. They had the easiest schedule I've ever seen. They have a cakewalk in a game, and now they're going to face Jared Stidham. they have a free path to the Super Bowl. If the Broncos win this game, which I think they have a chance, the defense is legit. If they can contain this Patriots offense and actually point some points up with Jarrett Stidham, they absolutely have a chance. And the reason they're surviving one of these times is because they have the Chiefs' magic of voodoo, but it also because this defense is actually elite. This is a legitimately elite defense. It's just the offense is not that good. As you said, they don't have a great run game. Their Cortland Sutton is washed, and their offense is not great, but their defense is keeping them in games. You know what they say? Defense wins championships. Offenses go on runs. We've seen that. We saw that happen against the Giants. I'm sorry, I keep talking about the Giants, but that's what happened against the Giants. They were down, and they went on that run because the Bo Nix got hot, the offense got hot. Dark made one mistake, and it cost them. That's what happens if Jarrett Stidham can go off for this one game. They give him some sort of fluid. He starts juicing for a game. They can easily win this game because this Patriots team is not good whatsoever, and they also survived because of bad coaching. They did, like you said, James Cook was not involved in that game whatsoever. I don't know if they must have forgot, but he actually led the NFL in rushing yards this season. Crazy, I know, to think that they didn't use him. They didn't use him at all. And like you said with the Eagles last year, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Run the ball. You have the rushing leader. Use him. They didn't use him, and it's probably what cost them that game. That one play does not define if you win a game or not.
Exactly, and I completely agree. And I think, in the sense where, I think the Broncos do have a chance because it's been notorious. The Patriots don't win games against backup quarterbacks. When they have to face, the other team is in the underdog situation, they don't perform well, and that doesn't speak for backups. Obviously, you talked about with Eli Manning. Obviously, he wasn't a backup, but he was underdog. Obviously, the perfect season destroyed that, and then another good Patriots squad 3 years later did the exact same thing, or 4 years later. And I think another thing is Jarrett Stidham hasn't played all year, so they have no scouting report on him whatsoever. So he could pull out whatever he wants. He could anything that he has in his repertoire, he could pull out in this game, and it could work. And what we learned, like we said, we'll talk about it later with Houston and New England. Just put up a sustainable amount of offense, and you stand a chance in this game. Because this Patriots offense, we'll talk about it, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the vanilla-ness of the Broncos offense. So Denver has a chance. We saw it in 2015. Peyton Manning had a noodle arm he had a noodle arm when it came to 2015. He was done at that point, and obviously showed. But the dominance of Von Miller and then DeMarcus Ware on the other side, it carried them all the way to the Super Bowl where they eventually won. And they did that by keeping these games by low score. Obviously, the defense didn't perform well. Or it had 5 turnovers, but it definitely wasn't one of their better performances. But as long as you got Pat Surtain, you have one of the best pass rushers in the league. It led the league in sacks. You have guys who are great all over the side of the ball. And if you can just because obviously Jarrett Stidham's a pocket passer, so it's going to be tough to run any RPO action and stuff like that with him and RJ Harvey. But get it to Cortland Sutton, get it to Troy Franklin. Evan Ingram has to be your best friend in this game, I think, for Stidham. Find him, because Evan Ingram is a solid tight end. Ever since he went to Jacksonville, he's been great. Then they got him from Denver, and Denver brought him in, and he's a solid tight end. Use him when you have him. And this offensive line is very solid, in my opinion. I think this Denver's offensive line is one of the better ones. It's just the skill positions is what's really concerning. So I think they have a chance. We just have to see what happens. So, but moving on from that game, we'll probably mention a little bit more when we talk Houston and New England. Let's move on to the NFC game. Obviously, let's just say an absolute domination. I talked about it on Saturday in my reactions video. I expected the game to be a little bit close. It wasn't even. It was a track race from the start. Rashid Shaheed with an amazing return. I thought, in my opinion, that the penalty was on Seattle. Because I just finished recording my reaction video for the Denver Bills game, and then I see the return like that on my TV, holy crap. But let's get into it. Obviously, you have some things about to say the 49ers, but my question to you about the 49ers is, how would you assess this season for the 49ers?
So, I think that you look at this season and you think, okay, well, our entire team is hurt and we still won a playoff game. That's a plus. Oh, wait, we've done I think Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, is the best player in the NFL on the offensive side of the ball. He can run, catch, he can literally do everything. But you look at this season, you're like, wow, we really accomplished nothing. We beat the Eagles, who, yes, the Eagles just won the Super Bowl, but I'm not even going to talk about it. I know you're still recovering, but just do me a favor and post. Put the little clip of the song "F the 49ers," and I'm just going to send this message to a specific person, Joe Bellinger. I'm going to send you this clip. Your team is ass because now next year McCaffrey's going to get hurt because he only gets healthy every other season. Your team sucks. You guys choke every year. Brock Purdy is ass. You guys got blown out by the second coming of the Legion of Boom. Raheem Shaheed kicked on the kickoff return touchdown. You guys suck. I'm looking specifically at you. Your team is ass. I said it in my last video I was in. This was going to be the game. This was going to be the best game. It was the biggest blow I've ever seen. I stopped watching at one point. I got to start playing Fortnite because the game was terrible. The Niners suck. Trent Williams is ass. McCaffrey's ass. Fred Warner's ass on the sidelines. Brock Purdy's ass. Ricky Pearsall ass. Everyone sucks on this team. The Seahawks, I love the Seahawks. I like them. Fuck the Niners. But play the song. Play the song at the 49ers. Because this team sucks. They have no future. Because eventually everyone's going to leave. Everyone's going to be retiring. They're getting old. They get hurt every year. Fred Warner is on like half a leg. His body doesn't function anymore. He's going to step on the field during practice in the coming months. He's going to tear his ACL stepping on the field like the one in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I bet you guys remember that, Niners fans, because that happens every single year. Your team gets hurt, and if you're building around these players that are getting hurt, you're never going to exceed expectations and win a Super Bowl. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen under Brock Purdy. It's not going to happen with CMC. It's not going to happen with all those players. You guys need to I would blow it up at this point because everyone's getting hurt. They might as well.
Wow. I knew you had a lot to say, but that was definitely something. I give you props for that, though. So, because obviously that's how I felt about the 49ers a few years ago. I've toned it down a little bit because this is the first time we played them since 2023. And one of the biggest guys that I didn't like, Debo Fat-Ass Samuel, is no longer on the team. So I haven't had to hate them that much, stuff like that. Drake Greenlaw was another guy. He was the guy, like you said, who got hurt in the Super Bowl and stuff like that. He's another guy. He's no longer in the team. So I really had no more beef with them because the guys that were talking the most crap are now gone or have been hurt. And then it's even to the point where it's like Ayuk, he was great, but then he's just off the face of the earth now. Hey, maybe the Giants will get him now. We'll see. So, but
why you gotta bring that up? Why you gotta bring that up? You know I have a history with Brandon Ayuk. We were just talking about something today. Why you gotta bring it up? There's no point. I spent all that money. Why you gotta bring it up?
All right, moving on with that. I think
Sorry.
You're good. Nah, but with the 49ers, it's 2023. I said this to everyone. I agree with the Brock Purdy take. You gave him over $250 million when he was Mr. Irrelevant. He was obviously Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. And you gave him all that money, and Mac Jones probably performed better than he did this season. He looked better.
System quarterback. That's all I gotta say. As much as I've said to my Eagles fans that Jalen Hurts is a system quarterback, Brock Purdy is the definition of a system quarterback. Mac Jones would have won in that game.
I don't know, man. It's not crazy to say. And I think, obviously, Brock Purdy's shown spurts there, and stuff like that. This season especially, he showed more rushing ability. He was more out of the pocket, making plays like that. So he's showing improvements, but he shouldn't be getting paid the money he should get him paid. You knew what you were expecting out of him with Mr. Irrelevant, and now look where you're at and stuff like that. Like you said, McCaffrey, when healthy, is one of the best players, probably one of the, like you said, the best. I think he's obviously in that echelon, but it's staying healthy. But obviously this season, when he stays healthy, he just sacrifices every other player to keep himself powered up, I guess. So, but like I said, the Niners, how I would assess their season, I think it's tough because from the outside looking in, I think people have said Kyle Shanahan's the coach of the year. I don't know about that because ever since he's gotten there, they haven't been able. I don't think he deserves to be fired because he's a good coach. He just get him. We talked about this. Justin Fields, I still don't understand why they didn't draft him back in 2021. Justin Fields, although I've given up on him at this point, just imagine what Kyle Shanahan would have been able to do with him, because we've seen spurts with him with Pittsburgh, with Chicago, week one against the Steelers. He's a good quarterback. Just get him a good head coach. I can't even imagine, but they decided to draft Trey Lance. That still baffles me to this mind. Trey Lance is like off the face. He's the backup for the freaking Chargers at this point. So, but at the end of the day, I think the outside looking in, it looks like a successful season with what they were given. But if you really know the history of the 49ers, especially the past 5 to 6 years, it's been a failure. They've gone from quarterbacks like Jimmy G, Brock Purdy, and expect to win Super Bowls when Brock Purdy literally showed you the Niners should have beat the Chiefs. I had no favorite. I wish the stadium blew up. That's how I felt about that Super Bowl, because I hated both teams. But I knew that San Francisco probably could have won that game. They choked it twice against the Chiefs, back in Mahomes' first Super Bowl and now in his second. So it's like, what else excuses do the 49ers have? Yes, injuries, but they're part of the game. It's how you adjust for them. Obviously, the 49ers, over the past few years, have had to deal with like a long laundry list of injuries. But at the same time, why are we not, like, we talk about the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, I think, have won a Super Bowl more recently than the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, the 49ers have been to Super Bowls, but they just have failed to deliver. So I think this, as you said, I think it's more of a fail than a success, because you got to look at their long laundry list of history and all the playoff failures. But you already talked about it a little bit when you were with your rant for the 49ers, so I'm just going to lead into next question, which I think I know your response. Are we getting back to the Legion of Boom territory for this Seahawks defense?
I don't think we are. Let me explain why. I think this is better than Legion of Boom. I'm going to sit there and say that I have never, I'll be honest, I wasn't watching football back when the Legion of Boom was. This is the best defensive team I've seen since the Houston Texans this year. But we all saw what happened. I think the Seahawks are a better defensive team than the Texans. I think that this Seahawks team has not only the best defense in the NFL, I think that they have a top 3 offense in the NFL, and I think, obviously, they're not. I don't think they're better than the Legion of Boom. Let me revoke my statement. To me, they're better than the Legion of Boom, because I never watched the Legion of Boom. But they're getting there. This defense is incredible. I've never seen a defense quite like this over multiple games. The only time I've seen a defense this good was against the Steelers and the Houston Texans, but that was for only one game I've seen them that dominant. This Seahawks team is the real deal, and they're approaching that territory of Legion of Boom status.
Yeah, and I think it's just like, we talk about San Francisco and their injuries and stuff like that. It literally looked like the injuries literally exploded themselves out, because they were able to avoid it all throughout the season and play good football, but the Seahawks were finally able to exploit their weaknesses of having not those good players in. Obviously, it's tough losing George Kittle and stuff like that, but I don't even think he would have been able to help with this defense. Because they've drafted so well, you got Devin Witherspoon, you got Tariq Woolen, you have Kobe Bryant, and then you're bringing in some vets. You're bringing in DeMarcus Lawrence, who's turning back the clock. He's finally going to an NFC Championship, not with the Cowboys, which is not surprising. Then you have former Giant and Jet Leonard Williams there, another former Giant and Julian Love. Like, these guys all over the field, they're coached amazing. Mike McDonald has been a great head coach, and I like that you bring up the offense. It's good. What Rashid Shaheed's done to this team ever since arriving there has been insane. This literally could be Seahawks from that era 2.0, because Percy Harvin was that guy for them when they got, like, he was a little bit older. He wasn't Minnesota Vikings Percy Harvin, but when he got to Seattle, he was still that dangerous kick returner that most people knew him for. So if they get back to the Super Bowl at this point, if it's Seahawks Patriots, I very easily could see a Denver Broncos Seattle Seahawks 2.0 Super Bowl with the Patriots in there. Or even the Broncos. Maybe they're setting that up again for another demolition. That would be insane, I think, in my opinion. So,
the only thing I think that's going to really hold the Seahawks back is how well Sam Darnold can perform in those future games, because I think this game against the Rams is going to be one of the best games in NFL history. Division matchup, two incredible offenses. They have the MVP. They have the Offensive Player of the Year front runner. I think it's going to be an incredible game. I am excited and worried to see how Sam Darnold can hold up. I think if you gave them someone like not even like a top like 5 quarterback, give them a guy who can perform in the playoffs. This Seahawks team is the favorite to win the Super Bowl before the season even started. I don't think anybody in their right minds had this Seahawks team being as good as they are because of Sam Darnold. Now he has performed well this season, but I am worried to see how he performs in those higher up games. Obviously, he performed well against this 49ers team, but how well did he really have to perform? This 49ers team was terrible. We haven't seen him in a actual high intense game because this Rams team is going to give him a run for their money. And I want to see how Sam Darnold performs under that pressure, under all that, okay, I got to score. We're not worried about this team because the 49ers scored 6 points. So I think if Sam Darnold can really, he doesn't have to be perfection. He does not have to be an elite quarterback by any means against this Rams team and to make the Super Bowl, to beat the Super Bowl. He just has to perform well enough to where the defense can keep in the game. And at the end of the day, no matter what, if the scoreboard says Seahawks have a higher number than the Rams, they win that game if Sam Darnold can just keep them in the game.
Adversity. He didn't have to face any of it in that game. He might not have to face it in this game, but he also has to be ready to make the big throws. If I learned anything from Jalen Hurts, I'm bringing him up in this situation. Jalen might not put up the greatest stats, but when it comes down to it, when we have a good offensive coordinator, when we have this team in shape, Jalen can make the big throws when they're necessary. It's not always about putting up the stats. And as history has shown, Sam Darnold doesn't like to perform well against the Rams. I believe he threw 7 or 8 interceptions in the 2 games alone. I don't even want to fathom. I had him in fantasy the game in LA. I wanted to punch my television because I was so pissed at him. He threw 4 interceptions in that game and still managed to get them into field and still managed to have the game go to overtime, or were they what? Can I remember? Was it go to overtime or tie it, or like overtime or win it?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I believe it was. It's gonna kill me. I think it was overtime and they won.
Yeah, I'll check right now. But it was in the sense where it's like, it was to win the game because they lost 21-19. So they had a chance for a 60-yard field goal, and that's just back to a credit to their defense. It's that plain and simple. Like Sam Darnold, at the end of the day, you know what you're going to expect out of him. But at the same time, with Minnesota, he got very lucky that he got to face a depleted San Francisco 49ers squad. I know we talked about them and they started a failed season, but he was pretty much set at that game perfection. Obviously, I think the Vikings had a good defense last year with him, but nothing beats this Seahawks defense. It's literally to the point that he just needs to not turn the ball over and they're going to win the game. It's that plain and simple. Don't turn the ball over. And unfortunately, Zach Charbonnet's hurt, but now that should benefit you even more because you can find Mike McDonald. Look what happens when you give Kenneth Walker red zone touches. He scores touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns. He's a good running back. He's a solid running back. He's exactly what you need. And another thing, JSN, if he gets unlocked, that is game over. Because he hasn't even been unlocked in the playoffs yet. I think Cooper Kupp was their leading receiver, if I'm not mistaken. And then they have versatility throughout the offense, so that should be good. But this defense is Legion of Boom territory. It's 2015 Broncos territory with that. It literally is it could carry them all the way to the Super Bowl. That's just how I feel. So, but now moving on to Sunday's games. Obviously, the Patriots-Texans game, we kind of mentioned a little bit about it in the Denver Broncos-Bills game, but I have some questions about the game for you. Is CJ Stroud the problem in Houston? Obviously, I think this was the worst game of his career, but is he the problem for Houston?
You mind if I do something quick, guys?
Go ahead.
I want to play a little game. I'm going to name you a bunch of players. I want you to try to guess what they all have in common. So Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Drake May, Sam Darnold, Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love, Jacoby Brissett, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts, Cam Ward, Daniel Jones, Bryce Young, Lamar, Joe Flacco, Tyler Shuck, Jackson Dart, Brock Purdy, Mac Jones, Joe Burrow, Kirk Cousins, Marcus Mariota, Spencer Rattler, Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. You know what they all have in common?
Go ahead. I have no idea.
They're all better than CJ Stroud. Every last one of them, I mean. CJ Stroud is terrible. I have been saying this at the end of his rookie season. I could go, this guy looks like he could be good, but I'm not giving him any grace till I see him finish out year 3. He has gone down every single season. In the game where your life is on the line, you have the worst game of your career. And when you look back at the game before, you look at it, he had, I think, 5 or 6 fumbles against the Steelers. I base a lot of my value on a quarterback based on how well they can perform when the lights are the brightest. CJ Stroud may have had the worst playoff performance for a quarterback in a 2-game span I have witnessed as a fan. He is god-awful. I also think the coaching, why the hell are you not giving Davis Mills a shot? You see that he's playing god-awful at halftime. Give Davis Mills a shot. Even if he plays bad, what's there to lose? You're already on the verge of losing the game. The Patriots kept it close because, like I've said, this Patriots team sucks. They kept it close. Give Mills a drive. If he scores you a touchdown and doesn't throw a pick, you're like, okay, he's better than Stroud. And the fact that they didn't give him a shot, to me, just goes to show what is the coaching staff doing? You don't give the guy a single shot? Not once? Not a single time? It made no sense to me. And to answer your question, yes, CJ Stroud is the problem. 100%. This defense is elite. They're only going to get better. And CJ Stroud is too busy worrying about his goddamn podcast and worrying about too many things that isn't football. He thinks he's hot shit. He was talking shit about Aaron Rodgers in the past just to barely beat the guy. He didn't even beat him. The defense beat the Steelers. And then you go play against this Patriots team like I've established a lot this episode and last episode. This Patriots team is hot ass. And then you go out and you get absolutely bitched. It's embarrassing. It's a shame because I actually really liked CJ Stroud coming out of the draft. I thought this guy was going to be an elite quarterback. And now look where he's at. Sitting at home, sitting in Cancun, sipping a pina colada, talking to Jalen Hurts, like, can I please learn how to perform well in the playoffs and not just the regular season like you? He is terrible. And I will say this until he proves me otherwise. CJ Stroud, you are a bum.
Yeah, and like you said, he's got to lead the podcasting to people that are more professional for podcasting like us. Thank you. But yeah, I think the most insane thing about him, he managed to peak after his rookie season. Like, how do you manage to do that? How do you manage to peak after your rookie season? I just find that insane. And it's like, you talk about this Texans defense. They forced 5 fumbles on Drake May. Obviously, they didn't recover all of them, but Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter were in the backfield every single play. Like, they've been the most dominant pass rush duo I've seen in a while. Like, they are absolutely amazing. I think Danielle Hunter is a free agent this offseason. He's about to get a bag. Like, easily over $130, $140 million, I think. He's going to be a top 5 highest defensive end because he's amazing. And CJ Stroud was terrible. The fumbles in the Steelers game, and then the interceptions in the Patriots game. He had, I think, 10 or 11 total turnovers in 2 games. How do you manage to do that? And obviously, losing Nico Collins is tough. The concussion and stuff like that. But why was he even still playing in the game? The game was way out of sorts, and the Steelers were not coming back from that. And then you lose Dalton Schultz. But you can't make excuses for missing players when your quarterback is missing throws. Not only was he showing interceptions, his completion accuracy was, I think, below 50%. Like, he was chucking the ball every single play, not even close, because they don't have a run game either. They're expecting production out of Nick Chubb in the big 2026. That's just insane. So, and I like CJ Stroud, but he has now fallen into Ohio State quarterback territory. That they are not good when they get to the NFL, and he's now fallen into that category because he's not been able to perform past his rookie season. Obviously, he's gone to the divisional round every single year. But are you content with that? Are you going to exceed that? Because the Texans haven't got past that round their entire existence of being a franchise. Everyone thought you were the quarterback to do that. But to be frank, your offense, like you said, probably looked better with Davis Mills back at the helm when he was playing. And this Texans, obviously they went on a huge winning streak, 12-5 and stuff like that. But if it was, they were 0-3 for a reason at the beginning of the season because CJ Stroud was underperforming. They need to bring in an offensive coordinator that can find anything they have in him. But if that guy, I think they should still obviously give him a chance. He shouldn't be traded or anything. But if you can find the right offensive coordinator for him, then he should be fine. But if that doesn't work, that's your final straw, I think, with him. So, but now, or you want to say something?
I was going to say, I don't know if you saw, his pass rating was so bad that if he would have knelt the ball every single play that entire game, he would have had a better passer rating than what he had that game.
That's just insane. But I'm just going to ask this question. I'm just going to let you go off like you did with the Niners. Is this Patriots team good, or have they benefited off a cupcake schedule? Go ahead.
So I'm not going to go off because I think I've done a plethora of that. I'm going to pull up something real quick. I'm just actually curious as to what the records of the teams they played this season were. Because if I'm not mistaken, not counting the playoffs, I believe. So let me go through this at home. So week 1, they lose to the Raiders. It's week 1. Who cares? Week 2, they beat the Dolphins. I'm gonna start a counter. Teams over and under 5.
You're on mute.
So, start a counter. Teams over and under 500. Dolphins, under 500. They then lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. I did watch that game. Ramondre Stevenson and the staff just fumbled the ball a bunch. Besides the point. Also, I saw something. Drake May leads the NFL in fumbles. He leads the NFL in fumbles this season. Next game, they beat the Panthers. Below 500. They were barely in the playoffs. They still suck. They then beat the Bills. Divisional game, half a point. Doesn't count. You then beat the Saints before Tyler Shuck. That's another below 500. You beat the Titans with the worst roster in the NFL. That's 4. You then beat the Browns. That's 5. Falcons. I think that's 6. Buccaneers. What do they say? 6. That's 7. I'll see myself out. Sorry. I'm being unprofessional. I apologize. You're welcome. So, where was I? Yes. So, I'm at 2023. Whoopsie. So, apologies. Give me 1 second. Okay, now, you go to the Jets. The team with 0 interceptions.
I don't think there's much explaining that needs to be done. The Jets are the Jets at the end of the day.
That is true. Bengals. That's 9. Giants. They lost to the Bills.
After being up
Lost to the Bills.
after being up 21-0.
pathetic. You beat the Ravens. That's 11. Jets, 12. Dolphins, 13.
And they finished 14-3.
They had one win this season on a team that finished over 500. There's a certain team that I know near and dear to my heart named the New York Giants. They had 4 wins this season. Their first 2 wins of the season were against the Chargers, a team that made the playoffs, and the Eagles, a team that made the playoffs. I rest my case. They suck.
I think that was a great analysis there from you, and I kind of have to agree. If I'll be honest with you, they remind me of the Eagles a few years back in 2022. We had a very easy schedule. We benefited off of that. We also had an incredible defense, so I think I will give us that, like our sacks. But then when our weaknesses were exploited by a team that knew how to do them. Andy Reid was running circles on Jonathan Gannon. I don't need to explain him. I've talked about him, and he sucks. Like, he's the Kevin Patullos of defensive coordinators at the end of the day. He might put up the sacks, but he doesn't know how to call the defense, especially in the biggest games of them all. The Patriots, and I'll talk about, since you talk about regular season, I'll talk about playoffs. Justin Herbert with a banged-up offensive line. CJ Stroud, notorious for stinking it up in the divisional round. And now, if Jarrett Stidham can't lock in, you have an easy path to the Super Bowl. I understand the Patriots sucked last year and they made improvements, but if you handed anyone else that schedule, you hand the New York Giants that schedule, I know you're probably getting at least 8 or 9 wins. At least. Maybe more. Because, like you said, there's 4 quarters in football, and that fourth quarter always seemed to eluded you from succeeding in. So, but I think at the end of the day, the Patriots, they're frauds. They have been for a while. I like that their succession because I like Mike Vrabel as a head coach. I think Drake May is a solid quarterback. But at the end of the day, Drake May did not look good in that divisional round. He was dropping the ball over the place. I know the weather was not great, but he's benefited a lot off the schedule and just being able to just put up good stats. If they get a harder schedule next year, I'd barely be surprised if they're able to get to 10 wins. So, but now, moving on to probably the best game of the playoffs, Chicago, the Rams. I like this game a lot coming in, and I knew it had high expectations. So the first thing I had to ask you is about the Bears. If Caleb Williams can stay consistent, what is his and the Bears' ceiling?
If I didn't say it on the episode last time, I believe I've told you this. I think Caleb Williams is the most clutch player in the NFL. The touchdown pass he threw in that game to, I believe it was Colson Loveland in the end zone.
Cole Kmet.
If I'm wrong. Cole Kmet, wrong tight end, was the most beautiful play I have ever witnessed as a fan watching a play happen. Caleb Williams, if he can learn that there's 4 quarters of football and not a second half, I don't see a reason why he shouldn't win an MVP and why the Bears can't win a Super Bowl. I also didn't like the Bears going. I don't like the Bears. I didn't like the Bears. I didn't like the Patriots, or didn't I like the Broncos. This Bears team shut me the hell up. I had them finishing with like 5 or 6 wins at the start of the season. I didn't believe in Ben Johnson. I didn't believe in Killins. I didn't believe in anybody on that team. They shut me up, and I will say, hey, bear down. If they can lock in and have Caleb Williams play football for 4 quarters, there's no reason why he shouldn't be a league MVP and they shouldn't win a Super Bowl. Lamar, he's getting older. Allen, getting older. Mahomes is getting older. In a few years, don't be surprised if you see Caleb Williams holding up that MVP trophy and the Bears holding up the Lombardi win the Super Bowl. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm going to speak in the sense, maybe a little bit negatively, maybe not. I think Ben Johnson proved that he's a quarterback whisperer this season. And I think the pressure's more on Caleb Williams because you have your head coach. He's not going anywhere. Your offense was able to be elevated. Luther Burden, I thought, was a good receiver. He emerged himself as a great receiver and looks like the Bears' future number 1 wide receiver. Romo Dunze, before that, he had that amazing start to the season. If he can stay healthy and continue to develop. DJ Moore's a veteran guy. He's that go-to guy. And Colston Loveland went from looking like a terrible pick to looking like the better tight end coming out of the draft at the end. He made that pick so much more justifiable. He made Caleb Williams the security blanket. But then let's go back to the point. Yes, that throw was incredible. But the interception was in overtime was just as bad. And I know he's still young. I know he still has time to grow. But that kind of stuff, you have to find ways to get rid of that almost immediately in this league. You have to be consistent in your play. This Bears team got very much bailed out because they were able to find any way to win in the fourth quarter. That's good for a young team, but now after this season, you should be one of the mainstays in the NFC. You have a young roster. If your team comes back healthy next year and you make small movements, the improvements to the offensive line was masterful. Kyle Monungai, what a steal in the draft. DeAndre Swift, Ben Johnson knows what he wants to do with his running backs. He loves his 2 running back sets. He loves having multiple formations with double tight ends, receivers out wide. He's done wonders to this offense. It is now on Caleb Williams to find that consistent way of football. If he can find a way to play 4 quarters of football, put up good stats, this Bears team should be one of the favorites in the NFC next year. They really should be because I don't know where the Lions go from here. I don't know where the Packers, because yes, Micah Parsons might stay healthy next year, but except for Toyotathon, you don't know what type of quarterback you're going to get out of Jordan Love. And then obviously the out landscape of the NFC, who's to say the Rams don't win the Super Bowl this year? Stafford retires and the Rams are looking for a quarterback. Seattle might be back, but I don't trust Sam Darnold no matter what. Like, he might put up good stats, but he's still very prone to make mistakes. It's just the type of quarterback he is. The Bears, if they can make the right moves this offseason, and Caleb Williams can find a way to play 4 quarters of football consistently, the Bears should be one of the top favorites. It's the if he can do it is the big question. I think he can do it. I really didn't like him coming out of the draft. I didn't like that he was getting all this hype. I think he's a good draft. Yeah, I think he was a good player. But to say a generational prospect, I thought that was a little much, putting too much pressure on the guy. He's okay. He has all the intangibles to be an MVP, like you said. But I think he needs to find that in himself. Everyone else knows he has it, but I don't think him himself knows that he has it. That's how I feel. So, but moving on to the last point I have for you, obviously about the Rams. What do you think of the Rams heading into the NFC Championship? Because last time we were on here, we talked about their defense. Their defense looked better in this game, but their offense left a lot to be desired. So how do you feel about them heading into the NFC Championship?
So, I have a saying, and I don't know if I've said it to you. When you have someone who's as crazy as this team is, when you have a team going out there, and I believe it was cayenne pepper in their shoes to keep them warm. If I'm Seattle, I am shitting bricks going into this game. You have Matt Stafford, the MVP. Puka Nacua, the best receiver in the NFL. You have Kyrie Williams, one of the better running backs in the NFL. I'm looking at this team. They have one of the best defenses, who I found out about roughly 4.5 hours ago, is actually one of the youngest, like one of the least paid off defenses in the NFL. I would be terrified of this team. I think it's going to be a dogfight, but they didn't have, like you said, the offense didn't have a great game. Yes, the conditions were bad. That's no excuse still. But if you got guys going out there putting cayenne pepper, first of all, that Rob play isn't healthy. And someone should probably do a study on that because it's probably not healthy. I don't know if they stole Cam Scadaboo's like crayons and were eating his crayons, and that's why they're all moving like him now.
They took his crazy juice.
They took it because you know Cam Scadaboo, whenever he eats his red crayons, he sees red, and that's I actually should have mentioned this. I think that they actually went to John Harbaugh and said, if you don't sign with us, we're gonna have Cam Scadaboo come headbutt you with a helmet on. And I think he was like, all right, I can see it. I'll sign with the Giants because there's no way he came willingly. That's besides the point. Going into this NFC Championship game, I think it's going to be an absolute dogfight. But I think at the end of the day, when you have the MVP and Matt Stafford championship with this Rams team, a guy who's a Hall of Famer. I don't care what anyone says, Matt Stafford is a Hall of Famer. When you have a guy like that going into a game against a division rival who you've now seen twice this season, I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified if I'm this Seahawks team. But at the same time, if I'm the Rams, I'm also a little bit scared of the Seahawks team. We saw what they did this season. They were incredible. But I look at that quarterback, that ginger quarterback, and I say, Sam Darnold, you got to show up, bud. You're facing Matt Stafford. If you can match Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, T. Higgins, everyone on that team, T. Higgins. Tyler Higbee, I meant.
Yeah. I think that
You can do something.
Exactly. You're good. No, I think the deciding factor in this game is on one man, Sean McVay. I think he needs to be able to outcoach Mike McDonald because when Sean McVay is in his bag, the Rams offense is untouchable. He was able to take, no disrespect to Jared Goff, but he was able to take Jared Goff to a Super Bowl. And you have what McVay has evolved as an offensive play caller. That's the more scarier thing. He's adjusted to the NFL as it's ever changing. You want to be a pass-heavy league? Let me go get Matthew Stafford, and I'll show you a pass-heavy league. Run-heavy. Kyron Williams, Blake Cornum. We'll get 3 tight end sets. We'll get Kyron Munfield out there to catch passes. We'll take Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams off the field, and we'll still cook you. He's been able to change to the ever-evolving league, and that's what makes him so scary. Stafford, don't throw interceptions. We know he likes to give it to the other team. Be the MVP you've been all season. Devontae Adams at this point should be acclimated back into this offense. They should be able to use him. Like you said, Higbee. Not only Tyler Higbee, you got Terrence Ferguson. You got Colby Parkinson. You can throw anybody out there, and they're going to succeed. And the Rams defense showed me something last week. They showed that they were able to respond after, I think, a terrible performance against Carolina. They shut down the Bears. Obviously, the Bears are notorious for being shut down all 3 quarters until the 4th. But I think it showed something for them that they were able to do something because obviously their defense has been up and down, but I think it was a momentum boost for them going into this game because, you said, it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be divisional. I wouldn't be surprised if no one gets into the 30s this game. I think it could be a 26-20, like something close like that. But I think the deciding factor for the whole game is Sean McVay, but depending on who wins, depends on what Sam Darnold, what type of quarterback he wants to be. He literally needs to be a Brock Purdy. He needs to be a manager system quarterback. Don't do anything stupid. Don't try to sugarcoat things. Do what's asked of you, and Seattle should win this game. But if he does that, the Rams, that's when the door starts to open for them. I think the Seahawks should be favored, but the Rams do not look at them as underdogs or anything. They can go into Seattle and absolutely beat them by whatever thing because I like to throw this out a lot. The Rams can win in a multitude of ways. You want to pass the ball over the rock? Puka Nacua is one of the best receivers I've seen in the NFL in a while. He's easily the best receiver I think in the NFL right now. Devontae Adams. But then if you want to run the ball, you got Kyron Williams. You got Blake Cornum. They're not the best running backs, but they get you good production. And that's what you want sometimes. And then you got Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, one of the most deadliest duos ever created in the NFL. So that's just how I feel. But that's all I got question-wise. Is there anything you would like to say before we wrap this episode up here, Santino?
I'm going to throw this out here. I'm just going to give my quick predictions. I got Rams over the Seahawks. And I got the Broncos beating the Patriots. And then we go in, and the Los Angeles Rams get Stafford his ring, get Stafford his MVP, get him a Super Bowl MVP. He walks out, bag in hand, and goes, I'm retired from the NFL. He goes out like a champ, even though he could never win with Detroit. He goes to the Rams, gets himself 2 rings, walks out, and I think this will be their year. Stafford gets his ring and retires in glory, unlike Aaron Rodgers threw a pick 6 on his last play because he's a bum. And the only other thing I have to say, if I'm not back before the season starts, go Big Blue. The Giants are winning the division.
Okay. So I'm going to agree with you that the Rams are going to make it, but I'm going to go with the Patriots. I just think, yes, they have a cupcake schedule, but they've learned how to win that way, and I think it's going to continue. But I agree with the Rams Stafford take, but I have a bonus thing that I want to throw onto it that transpires into next season. The Rams beat the Patriots. Stafford goes into the sunset. The Rams have the Falcons' first-round pick. Not only do they package that, but they package next year's first to Cincinnati and go get Joe Burrow and assemble the Avengers. That's what I think.
That happens.
That is
If
over.
that happens, they're going to be the Dodgers of the NFL.
It makes sense. It'd be LA. So, yeah. No, but we'll definitely be talking about some MLB because that season's coming up. So, but other than that, that's gonna wrap things up. I'll give my predictions real quick. Or I just did. Rams. I have Rams and Patriots. Santino has the Rams and the Broncos. But like I said, this is gonna wrap up this episode. I would like to thank Santino for coming on again. I always appreciate it. Always got great things to say. So,
Honored.
but other than that, we will talk to you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your night. And before I wrap things up, me and Joe should be back tomorrow for a Flyers talk. And we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.